Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with session one. And session one's title is an introduction to sociology of the family. When we look at the work in session one, make sure that you have read my session one email, the one that has all the directions and things, so you're well aware of what is going on for this session. Make sure before you start this particular lecture that you have completed your session one assigned reading, which was a portion of chapter one. So you were to start on the on page 9, where it says theoretical frameworks for viewing marriage and the family, and you were to read through to page 24 after you complete the reading of table 1.5. Not every week will we have an entire chapter. Sometimes I try to I try to make sure that I'm only selecting what is super important. You're certainly welcome to read more, but I don't want to waste your time and just say read the whole chapter if portions of the chapter is not really related to the content of the course. After you do the assigned reading, you can either move on to the journal or go ahead and complete this part of the lecture, watching this video and taking those notes. Remember, those notes need to be electronic. So if I were you, I would suggest having them pulled up and maybe typing at the same time you're listening. Or if you do better, but listening first and then re-listening while filling in your lecture notes, just depending upon your level of comfort. And then after you're done, you'll have a writing activity. This week's writing activity talks about attitudes towards marriage, because chapter 1 deals with a lot of content around the concept of marriage. And as a reminder, we reviewed these last week. We are going to begin this week applying those 3 major theories in sociology to the family unit. And if you need to just have a quick review, remember that structural functionalism is that concept of societies made up of interrelated parts, and they all work together for a perfectly functioning society. Remember, conflict theory talks about the conflict, the struggle between groups in society, and then that the central idea of symbolic interactionism is that symbols, or things that we attach meanings to, are key to understanding how individuals view the world and how we communicate and coexist with each other. So there's your quick review of the 3 main theories of sociology. You're going to need those today because we're moving into what is the function of the family unit within society, and we're going to take a look at the changing family unit based upon those 3 theories. So families have a role in society. That is how society was built. That people live together in groups called families, and that the adults in these units are responsible for producing children that end up being adults that contribute to society and know how to act within a society. So obviously, one of the functions of the family unit is to physically care for the children. We have to do that in order to continue on as a human race. We have to physically care for our children. We have to teach them how to socialize. So, we have to teach them how to act in specific situations. They need to know how to take direction from adults because they're going to eventually go to school. They need to learn how to act when they're sitting around a table eating dinner versus how they're playing at the park. So you think about parents kind of just guiding their children and learning how to act and behave in all sorts of situations. And that's why it's so important for parents to expose their children to so many types of environments. We are supposed to be providing that emotional stability for children, that place where they are loved and they are cared for and they feel safe in the world. I think we all see situations where children do not grow up to be healthy adults if they are not in a emotionally stable family unit. We are supposed to provide economic support to our children. We are supposed to make sure that we have the means to take care of our children. As the responsible person in the family unit, that is your role, is to economically support those children that cannot do that for themselves. This also kind of plays into the social status based upon a level of economic support of children. That kind of places the family in a social status. Are they poor? Are they middle class? Are they wealthy? That all ties back to the money or the income that the family has access to. Family units are also supposed to teach and regulate sexual behavior. That is where parents are supposed to teach their children about reproduction. And we see that a lot of this that I'm talking about has sort of left the family unit. We're going to talk about the change in society that has occurred. So this is supposed to be what the family unit does. This is supposed to be the responsibilities that a family should be doing for their children. And then they're also supposed to provide a level of social control, which kind of goes into socializing the children. Parents are supposed to have control over their children's actions to a certain degree. Obviously, everybody has their own free will, but parents are supposed to be teaching their children how to act in particular settings. I'm not going to spend a lot of time discussing the frameworks for viewing marriage and family. You need to do this in your textbook. I'm just highlighting the importance of understanding those for this lecture purpose. So feel free to pause me at any time, review that in your book, and complete those pieces of the notes that coincide with this. So we're going to move into just the introduction of marriage and how it relates to families. And marriage is obviously the legal relationship between two different people. Who those people are have changed over time in society, but it is a legal contract, and it is also an economic relationship. So you have a relationship, you come together, you together consume your income and your debts. And in the past, so a statistic from 1960, 72% of people were getting married and staying married. And now that's down to about 50%. The frequency of marriage was much higher in the past. It's certainly not anymore. Marriage is delayed most often. People are not getting married as young as they used to, and so obviously that has affected the family unit. The emotional relationship that goes along with marriage has to do with the emotion of love, the purpose of reproduction. We see care for each other and socialization between married couples here. So certainly there are lots of opinions on marriage, but if we're looking at why it was created and how it has changed, you can kind of see that that altering state of what marriage really is now in our society. And then I want you to pay attention to this. This is in your textbook. I've copied it right from your book. The benefits and the liabilities, why people choose marriage versus choosing to stay single. And you'll see that a lot of those things, people have to weigh them and decide what is best for them. So when we are looking at the vast changes that have occurred in society, we saw massive changes from 1940 to 1970. And prior to the industrialization era, the family unit was an economic team. Each member of the family had a distinct function. They worked together, and this created bonds. So there wasn't much of a divorce rate. All members depended upon each other for survival. And then post-industrialization, the family kind of lost its function as an economic entity because they didn't need to have each other to survive. And so marriage in general just kind of became fragile. And so we're going to kind of look into how we analyze that based upon the three main theories. And I know that I'm spouting a lot of information to you, so feel free to pause me at any time to kind of decompress or re-listen or fill your notes in. When we are looking at the structure of the family unit, so we used to have this farm life structure. Then we moved into this urbanization, this post-industrialization era, and so this man and woman both could work outside of the home, and so that kind of removed the sense of an economic entity for survival. And so the purpose of the family function actually changed. And so you can kind of read those bullet points there and kind of see this is kind of like old style living and new style living. And that is how we're analyzing it using structural functionalism. So the actual structure of families have changed. And then we'll move into looking at this family change with conflict theory. So conflict theorists are looking to explain the breakdown of the family, so divorce rates, by analyzing the relationships between how the man and the woman and how that has changed over time. So for hundreds of years prior to the industrialization era, men dominated the world. Women did not have alternatives other than to simply accept the fact that they were the homemakers. And then post-industrialization, women could work and earn an income to support themselves, and that removed their dependency on the man. And so this thus began that feminism era. So it gave women power and allowed them to move away from that typical the man is in charge of the family structure. It empowered them to either get out of marriages that were dominated with abuse, or just to remain single in general. And this newfound power of independence resulted in a much higher divorce rate and then a much lower marriage rate. And so conflict theorists don't necessarily believe that marriage itself weakened. It just analyzes the fact that women are now more apt to make their own decisions about this rather than just falling right into the, well, you're becoming a woman and now you need to get married and produce this family. So then when we move into symbolic interactionism, which is the small individual approach, I'm going to start with an example here. So looking at this photo, how do you feel about this photo? Is this person loving life or enjoying a beautiful day? Are they alone? Are they sad? Are they depressed? Are they contemplating suicide? What do you think makes you interpret this picture in this particular way? And so that is sort of the concept behind symbolic interactionism. So marriage existed based upon obligation and duty in the old way of life. And it wasn't until emotions and feelings entered the arena for mate selecting that even marriage became based upon attraction and intimate feelings. So this created the issue that marriage could be broken if those things ceased to exist. And then finally, let me remind you of a few things that the book touches on about changes in society. Those are important to note. And then wrapping all of this up with some summary questions. So please let me know if you have questions. I know that was a lot of information. thrown at you very quickly, but hopefully between reading the text and listening to my additional input, you kind of have a better idea of marriage and family and how it's changed over time.